Greetings, kindred. Wishing you all a happy full moon. And yeah, so this full moon takes place on the second day of the sun entering into the Lionsgate portal. We'll get into the Lionsgate portal in a minute. I normally do a separate kind of video for that. But yeah, I'm working on the horoscopes at the moment as well. So I'm going to include it in this full moon reading. So the full moon will reach its peak on August 9th at 8:55 in the GMT time zone, at 3:55 in the EDT time zone, and at 17:55 in the AEDT time zone. Now, this is the day after the 8/8. I'm recording this on the 7th. So tomorrow, here in the UK, tomorrow the 8/8 will be when the sun enters into the Lionsgate portal. Now the portal does open around about the new or full moon in July, kind of like this year it was the 24th of July. We had a new moon. That is when the portal actually opened, but the sun doesn't actually enter into the portal until August 8th. So just to clarify that. So what have we got here? The moon, as it reaches its peak, will be in the sign of Capricorn in conjunction with Pallas, who's retrograding. Now, Pallas is at 15 degrees, and I always go on about the number 15 because it's been showing up a lot. I'll say over the last year or two, the number 15 has been very relevant. And 15 really is a purgatory number. It's about repercussions for those that have abused power. Now, it might seem daunting, the number 15, because it does expose corruption in a way. But I just feel that that has been escalating over the last 2 years. And, with the moon in conjunction with Pallas, this full moon is showing me that, wow, a lot of people are coming into realization. A lot of information is coming out in a more of an exposure way. So the sun is always opposite the moon at a full moon, and Pallas and the moon and the sun are creating a T square towards Vesta and Juno, who are in Libra. Well, let's just talk about the moon in Capricorn. Now, this is a moon that takes life very seriously. It is a moon that identifies more with the material than it does the spiritual. So the moon here in Capricorn is in its detriment. Really, it's all about money, power, and status. But also, it's a moon that's very insecure about its own worth. But because of that, there's a cold and calculating vibe that can come from that. And, that makes sense with it being in conjunction with Pallas, who's at 15 degrees. Now, Pallas is the one that recognizes patterns in situations or in people. Pallas is a little bit like the psychologist in a way. Like Scorpio is more like the investigator, the interrogator. So they are creating this T square towards Vesta and Juno, which really is creating a lot of indecisiveness, feeling pulled in different directions. It's about our egoistical desires, but also there's a lot of doubt and insecurities about our responsibilities with that. So, with the sun in opposition to Pallas anyway, it really is about heightened awareness. But balance is needed between our egoistical desires and like a deeper understanding, a more compassionate understanding as well. So, with the two goddesses here in the sign of Libra, it really is all about balancing the material with the spiritual. But like I said, the moon here is in its detriment and in conjunction to Pallas, who is retrograding at the moment at 15 degrees. Maybe we're backtracking in our thoughts and we're starting to put all the pieces of the jigsaw together. I just feel like it's a jigsaw coming together, and this will be on the second day of the sun entering into the Lionsgate portal. So we also have another T-square here as well, with the Black Moon Lilith, who's in opposition to Chiron. Now, this is very deep wounding. It's very traumatic, very painful. And, it's not a grand cross, but it is a T-square towards Pluto. This is all about, again, unearthing hidden truths, especially when it comes to our wounds and how they're shaping our perception of power control. Do you know what I mean? It's going on at the moment. So I just feel that there's a lot going on right now with a global community where we're recognizing a lot of things. It's a very uncomfortable time, let's put it that way, but it can also be quite a painful time for many. Some of us have already been through that pain and come out the other side, but some of us are about to enter into it or are actually kind of in it right now. And it's all about shadow work, especially with the Black Moon Lilith here. I mean, it can be a very uncomfortable time, like I said, but it really is for evolution of the soul, evolution of the higher self. It's all about unity of the soul and the higher self as well. I said a long time ago that many people want to connect with their higher self, but no one really wants to truly connect with their own soul. Because to connect with your own soul, you have to face your shadow. You have to face your demons and those deep-seated wounds. Do you know what I mean? It's like opening the Pandora's box. And when we first open that box, all we see is the darkness and the negativity. But once we kind of sift through that, we see the light of hope. So, it's all about maturity, not maturity of our mind and hearts as such, but maturity of the soul, evolution of the soul. And it's the soul that is really connected to our genetical makeup. We're never the same again once we've gone through a heavy transit that involves the Black Moon, Lilith, and Chiron. I mean, I think out of all the transits, this is the most painful. It can even represent well, I can't really say it because there's certain words that are banned now, but it is, even about unaliving ourselves. Do you know what I mean? So we may be seeing a lot of desperation going on right now with certain people around us. But with the moon in Capricorn, it can also be, like a selfishness there, where it's kind of all about me. And this is all occurring on the second day of the sun entering into the Lionsgate portal. But, the good thing is the sun is at 18 degrees. It is showing that positivity can come out of this dark time or this shadow time that many of us may be going through right now. And it's especially kind of relevant to the UK here with this Yod, with the midheaven in sextile to Ceres. Now, Ceres is all about abuse as well. And in Pisces, it's kind of like emotional abuse. And then they're forming the MC and Ceres is forming this quincunx aspect to both Juno and Vesta. Now, Juno is all about our commitments, whether that's relationship commitments, work commitments. It's what we have committed to in our life, like a project, a business, or a partner. And Vesta is all about our inner temple, our passion, what lights our fire, especially on a spiritual level. And at 7 degrees, it is about spiritual power. But they're in Libra, and Libra, when Libra's out of balance, like Libra can be all over the place. Do you know what I mean? So we can feel very torn right now. Very torn, like, where do our loyalties lie? Because Juno is very loyal and Vesta is very passionate. Juno's at 10 degrees, and 10 is quite a number in itself, It leads back to one, to the self, and 0 is the void. So, some of us may feel a little bit stuck during this time in this inner dark place. But if we kind of sit still and listen and be brave enough to work through any traumas that are surfacing at the moment, and it may not necessarily just be with ourselves, it could be with people that are close to us. Maybe we've already gone through this and, but we're starting to see people around us going through this. Now, I remember saying a couple of years ago when I was talking a lot about the shadow work, about the Black Moon Lilith transits, and I was saying, do the work now. And it's a lifetime's work. It's not like, oh, we do a bit of shadow work for a couple of months and we're healed. The shadow work is continuous. I mean, the Black Moon Lilith cycles like 8 years. So every 8 years, and 8 is the number of Saturn as well. So, every 8 years we are going through a cycle with the Black Moon Lilith. And the Black Moon Lilith is at 33 degrees. Now, 33 is a master number. The 33 degrees is about mastering the shadow. And the shadow does involve like a healing ability or, bringing our ego into balance, having faith, because sometimes we have to have blind faith because that's all we have left. Do you know what I mean? So it's a very deep time, but I'm finding the Lion Gate portal since 2019 have been very intense. And it is a very intense time because it's all about balancing of the masculine and the feminine. So what I'm seeing is important in this chart as well, with Moon in sextile to Ceres, which is here. So Ceres is transiting through Pisces at the moment. Unfortunately, Ceres is direct. So there's no stagnancy with this energy. But it really is about being clear in our communications about our needs, our desires, or even, our resentments. And we shouldn't be giving to get something back either. We should trust that karma is at play in our lives, and whatever we're putting in, we will get back, but not necessarily in the same way. So it's like we may give help or we may be generous to a person, but that person may not be in a position to give back to us. So, it should be given with unconditional love. If we're going to help somebody or, whether that's in advice or even materially, someone needs help because they're desperate and we've helped that person, we can't hold them to ransom on getting something back. Do you know what I mean? It's really is about giving unconditionally and just knowing that we will be rewarded in another way through another person or another situation. And the Saturn-Neptune conjunction we have here now in retrograde, I mean, this has caused a lot of confusion, especially in the sign of Pisces, because it's in deep waters and Neptune is the strongest here because Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. Saturn doesn't do well in Pisces. So we could be drowning in like confusion or even depression. But I do feel that it's bringing this energy, is bringing something to an end because they're both at 9 degrees and they're both in opposition to Mars, who's at 7 degrees in Virgo. It's showing me that this is like activating this energy here. Mars is activating. It's like we have no choice, really, but to bring closure or bring in a little bit of logic and reason into this Saturn Neptune conjunction's energy, like I said, which can be a little bit muddled and confusing. We need to avoid escapism, and because the moon is in Capricorn and Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and with all this palace moon energy going on here, is also activating this conjunction here. So really, we are reaching an ending of a cycle. I really do feel it involves both psychological and emotional wounds. So, we have to do a lot of work around this Lionsgate portal. We've just come through a Venus-Jupiter conjunction in Gemini, which can be good when Venus and Jupiter come together. It is all about expansion of our desires. And because Gemini is kind of like an air sign, which represents our mentality, it's like we desire to have a better life, or we desire to be more inventive, maybe more creative. It's also connected to this air kite with Juno and Vesta and the North Node. And at the top of the kite, oh God, I'm getting lost here, is Uranus. So Uranus in Taurus at 7 degrees. I mean, again, what we want to create is in the physical, but really what we've got to deal with right now is the spiritual, the morals and the principles, getting our or prioritizing, really prioritizing what is more important right now in this time. And, it could be that we need to make sacrifices on one hand to achieve a better standing on the other. So really, this is a time, like I said, where we are all facing the shadow. And if we're not facing it directly ourselves, we're going to be dealing with people around us, whether this is like personally, socially, or globally. This is like a very, very important time, a very, very significant time. So let's look at the Lionsgate chart wheels actually. So this is the 8-8 portal. Now 88 represents the white lion. Now, as you can see, the sun isn't in Leo. The sun is actually in the sign of Cancer. Now the sun spends 2 and a bit or 2 3/4 at the moment days in Cancer through the Lionsgate portal, and around about 2 and a bit days in Leo. The portal opens on the new moon or the full moon in July, And at present, in our current times, the portal begins at 17 degrees in the sign of Cancer. The sign of Leo, really, this is the sign of the sun. It's the golden lion. So how does the white lion appear in the sign of the golden lion? Because what it is the sign of Cancer, the symbols for the sign of Cancer isn't just the crab, it's also the scarab and the turtle. So that is where the wisdom comes from. So Cancer, in its immaturity, is very insecure, very clingy, can be quite possessive. But in its maturity, there is a lot of wisdom, a lot of patience, and even strategy. You know, the crab walks sideways so we can sidestep things with this sign of Cancer in its maturity. Now, we do have Mercury retrograding in Cancer that's bringing up a lot of issues from the past. And I have done a Mercury retrograde article, which will be linked below, so you can get the full picture of what this Mercury retrograde is all about. And so the sun at the moment really is going through the preparation to enter into the sign of the lion. So it's been fed the wisdom, the hope, the empathy, the compassion that the white lion represents. So on the 9/8, the day of the full moon, and the sun is moved to 18 degrees, and like we saw in the full moon chart, the sun was at 18 degrees in opposition to Pallas and the moon. So I've really already given an explanation for this. So the 10th of the 8th, we're still in the portal. The sun is in the portal. Now the sun is now reached 0 degrees in the sign of Leo. Now the portal opens, like I said, at a new moon or a full moon around about the 23rd, 24th of July. And it will depend on the year whether it's a new moon or a full moon. But it's around about this time that Sirius comes closest to Earth and aligns with the sun. It also aligns with the pyramids of Egypt. So that is what opens the portal, but it does start in the sign of Cancer. So as we can see, the sun is in quincunx here to the North Node in Aquarius. Now the North Node in Aquarius, wow, I mean, that's a very hard energy to achieve because it's all about our higher consciousness. It's all about our humanitarian values. So the sun is in the void at the moment of Leo. Now Leo is all about pride. It's all about the ego. And, you know, Leo can also have that selfish element to him. You know, and that's why in Chinese astrology, they changed the lion to the tiger because the tiger was more unconditionally loving. According to the Chinese astrology, the lion became very egoistical. So he actually got kicked out of Chinese astrology and was replaced with the tiger. But in Chinese astrology, the tiger actually represents the sign of Aquarius. So, you know, I found that quite interesting information because I really do like Chinese astrology as well. So the sun has now entered into the lion's energy now, and it's bringing all the wisdom, all the compassion, and all the sacred knowledge of the turtle, the crab, and the scarab with him as he enters into the sign of Leo. So the sun, 0 degrees in Leo, in opposition to Pallas now, who's at 14 degrees. So, you know, it's a relief really that the number 15 is not showing up here, but the 9 is with this Saturn Neptune conjunction. So let's move to the 11th. So this is the 11th. This is coming up to the last days now of the sun transiting. And as you can see, it's still at 0 degrees in Leo and still in quincunx to the North Node, but also the moon now is conjunct the North Node. Now, this is where we shouldn't be entering into any kind of groups or jumping on bandwagons or anything along those lines. It's a time to work alone. We're still integrating the Lionsgate portal energy, so it's not a time to jump on bandwagons. This is a time for stillness, really, because although we've incorporated the love, compassion, the wisdom, and the empathy of the Cancerian energy, we're now incorporating the courage, the bravery of the Leo energy. You know, and Leo's energy is quite fierce as well. Do you know what I mean? So this is where we're bringing all the wisdom and the empathy into our courage and bravery, because the one thing the sign of Cancer doesn't really hold, or is not known for holding, is bravery or courage, but it is about wisdom and higher knowledge. So now we are bringing that into the physical, the moon and the sun, the masculine and feminine are integrating to bring balance between the spiritual and the physical. So on the last day of the portal, when the sun moves at 1 degree into Leo, this is the last day now. So this is all about, again, the one. This is all about us integrating these two energy into our beings, but we don't actually fully integrate it until the sun comes into conjunction with the fixed star in Leo, which is called Regulus, and that occurs around about the 22nd of August. So let's look at that chart. So here we are, we have the sun in conjunction to Regulus, 11 degrees. 11 is the master number. Now this is the heart chakra activation. And this is where we, you know, all that we've integrated mentally and emotionally is now being integrated into the heart chakra. And with the moon conjunct at 9 degrees, you know, we've got the moon and the sun here. So the moon is bringing an ending to all the confusion created by this Saturn-Neptune energy, all this emotional confusion, and it's giving us like the activation now where we become the brave heart, but with all the understanding and the knowledge and the wisdom of the Cancerian scarab turtle energy. So this isn't how I normally do a Lionsgate portal reading. I literally am just flitting through here just to explain it, because I have a lot of people write to me and going, oh, but the sun isn't in Leo in the 13 Star Sign Astrology on the 8-8 portal. Well, I just wanted to give you an explanation here of how it works. But anyway, Kindred, I'm going to leave it there. So, sending you all peace and much love. Take care.